This utility demonstrates a VDM application called the Well Browser. As in some other videos, I'm using a worst case scenario of a data set called Star Trek. If I click on it here, there's a curve group inside of the Star Trek project called SRAM, which has about a half a gigabyte of data in it. So the first thing I'm going to illustrate is just how quickly that zip, as you can see also, it's stored in a zip file format. That's what allows me to browse into it here. When I bring up the Well browser and tell it to open that Star Trek project, it will open very quickly. The entire data set is approximately 700 million bytes in size. The Star Trek curve group by itself, however, is about a half a gigabyte. The first thing you see illustrates how an application actually sees VDM data. The top level is the versions. There's two versions in this data set. The next level down breaks it up in types of data, and the first group here are curve groups, of which SRAM is a member. And SRAM itself contains a lot of curves. Basically, you're looking at the number of columns here you're looking at are 243 columns. And if I scroll through this, you can see that VDM responds very quickly. It doesn't matter if I'm scrolling through the 243 columns or if I'm scrolling through the 500,000 levels. If I scroll to the bottom again, you see that we're talking about 507,000 levels. One thing that's important about VDM is that it does not bring all of this data into memory. It only brings in, it paginates it in, much like a disk operating system paginates a file system in. And furthermore, the grid control here, which was written as a part of VDM, is what's referred to as a virtual control. It only has in memory what you see on the display. Each one of these cells is capable of going out and requesting to VDM what the value should be that goes into that cell. So that's a brief overview of what the Well browser can do. It also allows you to look at table groups. And as an example, I can look in this null group and see the catalog, which contains is a directory of everything that's in the project. But for the purpose of this video, I want to show you this worst case scenario of the SRAM again. And one of the points that I want to make is that when you design your code specifically for the business logic that you're interested in, you can do a much better job than an off-the-shelf application can do, and or for that matter an off-the-shelf control. One of the reasons I wanted to write this grid control is because of the speed that I can scroll sideways and horizontally. Off-the-shelf grid controls very commonly support this virtual nature that I was describing, but very often they use a separate control for the heading, for example. That gives me the names of the columns and the units on each column. And they typically don't handle the virtualization very well. So as a result, we again targeted our VDM library very specifically for the business logic we were trying to solve. Now compare that to an application like Excel. Excel is an extremely good application, and I'm not trying to disparage it in any way, but it was not designed specifically to handle our business logic. What I'm going to demonstrate is that one curve group, that this SRAM group, that I've exported out as an Excel spreadsheet. And whenever I ask Excel to open this data, it's not opening the full data set. It's opening that one curve group. And the first thing that we'll notice is this progress indicator down here. It's going to take Excel a very long time to open this data. The other thing you notice, again, like I said, the Well browser does not bring all of the data into memory. You can see its working set right now is about 300 megabytes. The Excel, as it's opening, its working set is increasing as it opens the file. I'm going to go back into Excel real quick to see where the progress is, and it's still in the process of opening that data. Go back over to the Well browser and close it and open it again. And again, I can open this entire data set much faster than Excel can open a single curve group. The other thing that I'm trying to point out here is that VDM does not have to open the entire data set and bring it all into memory, but that's exactly what's happening in Excel. Excel's working set is now up to 1.5 million bytes, and it's still increasing. By the time it finishes opening, that one curve group will be over 2 gigabytes of data in memory. Once the data set is open, the next thing I can demonstrate is you saw the ease with which I was able to scroll horizontally and vertically through all of the data in the SRAM curve group. Excel, even with everything in memory, is not able to do that. So it's just loaded here. And the first thing I'll do, watch the scroll bar. As I drag down, you won't see any of the cells updating except for very large increments here. And we can see that there are 507,000 rows in the data set, just as we were seeing in the Well browser. And if I scroll horizontally here, you see it can't keep up horizontally either. And just to re-emphasize that, I'll go back to the Well browser and scroll horizontally. You see the cells are updating as I scroll. It can keep up in real time with the scrolling. Same with the vertical. And again, we're looking at the same number of rows, 507,000 rows. What happens if I modify this data? I'm going to go up to this this column here and change the existing value to be 15. And then I'm going to close the file. And say yes to saving it. So it was able to save that 750,000 byte file that quickly. Now I'm going to go back to Excel and do the same thing. Keep in mind it's a separate file. It's the Excel spreadsheet that I'm working with here, not the data that I just showed you in Well browser. It's data that was exported from Well browser. Same column. Change it to 15. and then close. Yes, save. So you can see the progress indicator here. It's going to take it a very long time to save this data back out. And I'm not going to make you wait for that. So I'm going to go back over here and just prove that I actually did save the data out in my original. And you see the 15 was actually stored. So the point I'm trying to make in all of this is that very often consultants will tell company management that if you can buy a control and save the development time, that you're better off doing that. But that needs to be pushed back on a little bit, because an off-the-shelf control does not understand your company's business logic. And so if you try to use a generic grid control or a generic application like Excel, you're not going to be able to get the kind of performance you can get if your components understand your company's business logic.